Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's TX141 here, your ace in a day pilot as always, and today I'm bringing you a bit of a retro gameplay. In honesty, I'm going back to the Focke-Wulf 190 A-5 /U2 version. I know you guys are going to be thinking, well, he's putting another Focke-Wulf 190 gameplay up, so what exactly? Well, I think it's 2, perhaps 3 gameplays of this plane already up on my channel. However, I've never done a commentary over the gameplay, and so I thought I'd bring you a commentary with one. And also, this was a pretty good game. I recorded it late last night, just while I was chilling about on War Thunder, having a couple of arcade battles, and well, I was just happy about how the game went. So on the Airfield Domination map Mozdok, and as you can see, I'm already climbing, and I'm using a new tactic for climbing. I used to have this conception that WEP was limited in the arcade mode, and that if you overused it would actually damage your engine, and hence why you'd hear this the sound of the engine conking out, as you can hear in the background there. However, I was informed when I was flying about in my BF-109 Gustav 6 that actually WEP does not affect the engine anymore. I know it used to, I think about 3 patches back, patch 1.29, patch 1.27. I never realised that the developers had got rid of this effect, which, to be honest, it means that it takes away the little aspect which sort of restricted your WEP use. You couldn't just keep using it non-stop. But it explains why when I was flying the G6, even when I have it fully, now that I have it fully upgraded, it explains why I could never climb as high as most players I was going up against. They just seem to get their G6s miles above me. But anyway, detracting from the gameplay there. And as you'll notice in this video, that's the only time you're going to hear the engine conk out due to excessive WEP use. All the other times I use it in moderation. Okay, so to start off with, I noticed this hind call 111H, and our Mitchell's gradually climbing up towards him. However, I'm getting the feeling our Mitchell probably won't be able to sustain the climb after the hind call. So as a result, I'm going to nip in. And also, before attacking, I did check to see if this hind call had sustained any critical damage. It had not, so here we go with a burst. Okay, so having taken the wing off of the hind call, also noticing that actually the Mitchell is still sort of trying to climb up. At this point I was looking behind and wondering whether he was going to try and shoot me for what he would say is, or she would say was, a kill steal there. You guys can evaluate yourself, but I don't think that really was a kill steal, just for the simple reason that no critical damage had been done to the hind call. As you could see, it was actually getting ready to drop its bombs on our ground units. But anyway, I've got enough altitude now. I'm up at 3,800 metres, and I do love this plane. It's one of the most incredible planes for dives, for energy tactics in general. Just because you have so much control, the roll rate is superb. And also the armament of two 20mm cannons and two 7.92mm machine guns is phenomenal. And the setup I'm using, for those of you who'd like to know, is a 30-minute fuel tank, 500-metre gun convergence, no vertical targeting. I'm using the air target ammunition in the cannons and the omni-purpose ammunition in the machine guns. The machine guns I use pretty much to set up my shots. Meanwhile, the 20mm cannons are there to do all the damage. By setting up the shots, I mean getting my guns in range, knowing when I'm about to get off a good burst on the target, and therefore bringing in the cannons to finish the job. But the wonderful thing about this plane, I haven't actually tried the A-5 with the 2 outerboard MG FFG 20mm cannons. The wonderful thing about this plane is the amount of ammunition you get with the 20mm cannons is stupendous. 500 rounds is more than enough to rack up at least 3 kills before you have to do a reload. As you can see, I've flown over towards the enemy airfield. My tactic really is just to keep an eye, make sure there's no enemy fighters that are trying to climb up to higher altitudes, because we're playing at rank 11 here, and as a result a lot of players, especially if they're in Spitfire Mark 9s or in Messerschmitt 109s, they do like to climb and go on the offensive via the use of energy tactics. So I'm just doing a small combat air patrol above the enemy airfield. You'll notice that I'm not diving down on planes that have just spawned, but I am going to dive down on this Focke-Wulf 190. My actual target here was the 0 at the top of the screen. I mainly went for the Focke-Wulf as a distraction to make the guy in the 0 here think that I wasn't going for him or her. But as you see, nailed the plane completely using the cannons. Took a little bit more ammunition than I expected, but we allowed for that. And because there's so much energy behind this plane, I've had full control in the dive and the roll. I can just climb away from this Airacobra that's following behind without any trouble, and without having to resort to overusing the web. Of course, I'm not condemning people who do decide to use web constantly. It's just a mechanic in the game. It's there to be abused, and as a result, some will. I try to use it with respect to a bit of moderation. And I can see my team's Wellington ahead, where it's just come out of view, is actually being stalked by a couple of enemy fighters, but I've got an XP-55 Ascender climbing up towards me. Now these things, I've never been able to kill one until this gameplay, as you're about to see, because they are devils at climbing and diving, and they are lethal. But this one wasn't. So having cleared out his right wing, taking it off completely, I'm flying over towards our Wellington, and I've noticed that because of that I haven't had a chance to catch up to our Wellington, but this Messerschmitt 109 here, Gustav, is climbing. And I can't really tell what he's doing in the cloud layer, that's why I fired that burst to try and shake him into making a sharp turn, but actually was still climbing. He hadn't actually paid attention. I don't think he or she might have even seen me through the cloud layer, and as a result that meant I could catch him or her halfway through the climb and just nail them with the cannons. And now I'm going for a reload because I think I'm already at 4 kills and I'm running low on cannon ammunition. I'm at 58 rounds, but as you can see, the number of kills or assists or just general bursts you can get off before having to reload is phenomenal with this plane. So I see a Junkers 87 here, but the only thing is I don't want to dive on him or her straight away because they've just spawned, so I'm just cruising along above and giving them time because they can clearly look up and see my plane. They're out of the cloud layer and I'm not in a cloud layer. But look, I assumed this player wanted to carry on flying at a higher level because they hadn't dived down, so I decided to dive on the Junkers 87D. Now my first couple of bursts there are a bit off target because I was trying to get the guns into the 500 metre gun convergence, and also the cannons do need quite a bit of lead. They're not the best velocity compared to, say, the Russian 20mm Shavak cannons or the British 20mm Hispano Suzia cannons. I think that's Suzia, someone correct me in the comments section below if I'm wrong. But we managed to get the Junkers 87. It did try doing a small roll, and once you've got a couple of 20mm cannon shells on target, the plane loses a lot of its control surfaces, and that way I could just get nice and close and nail them and take the complete back end off. So I'm cruising around again and I'm just hanging above the enemy spawn at 4,372 metres and climbing in altitude. But as you'll notice, I'm never diving directly on someone who's just spawned. I've always given them a window just to go dive for the cover or to come up and fly at me. Because, to be honest, I really dislike spawn killing. I've been on the receiving end of it in War Thunder, and well, I can see that it's an easy way of racking up kills, racking up experience and racking up silver lines. But it really loses the fun you really lose the fun after a while. And now I'm diving in towards the enemy airfield because there's a nice big cluster of enemy planes, and what I'm noticing is they're all trying to chase after one or two of our fighters. So I'm just going to see who I can pick out of the mix. I can see there's this P-39N Airacobra, but I decided to switch over to a P-39Q5 Airacobra instead. He's making a sharp turn, and I nailed them completely. Now it was unfortunate, that is my 6th kill. It was unfortunate my teammate also decided to go for that plane, which does make me feel a little bit guilty. However, we got the person, the pilot between us, so teamwork as always. And now I'm just going to climb back up to the altitude because the energy retention in this plane, in a dive, even if you make a couple of slight adjustments such as a brief roll or a pair of rolls to get yourself on target or a slight turn, you do not really sacrifice much energy with the Focke-Wulf. And the funny thing is, I read on the forum people complaining about in arcade this plane's absolutely an absolute disaster. Well, it can't turn very well. That's its massive downside. It's got an awful turn rate. I'm not sure if that's going to be the final flight. This is going to be the final flight model of the plane or not. Some people are saying they're going to correct the flight model eventually, but it has its strengths. This plane, as you can see, the armament, the ability to use energy tactics superbly with an incredible roll rate and energy retention. So it's not as though this plane's left out in the dry and left out high and dry and without any strengths. Again, I'm heading back over to the enemy spawn because by being over the enemy spawn that way, you attract the attention of the enemy planes. And also it prevents the enemy planes from climbing up towards higher altitudes and camping over your spawn. In an Airfield Domination match, especially on a small map such as Mozdok, and this map has an incredibly high tendency for one team to pretty much end up camping over the spawn and airfield of the other team. I know it's the actual aim of the game is to take the other team's airfield, but it can happen very quickly, especially at lower tiers if you get a couple of experienced pilots playing on one team. But anyway, enough about me blabbering along about spawn killing and that. I'm at 6 kills and I'm looking to see if I can get any more. And I've noticed our team's just decapped that airfield, Airfield A, so I'm going to dive down on the enemy planes that are trying to recapture it, especially seeing as it's towards the end of the game. I might be able to pick up 1 or 2 more kills. As you can see here, making a quick roll, adjusting, and I've got my ammo fully reloaded, so I can go crazy on the trigger if I want to. Starting off, a P-63A King Cobra that's been killed, and I did critical damage to that P-47 D-25 Thunderbolt. However, that's the end of the game. 7 kills plus 1 extra one if I'd been a bit more lucky with the shots. However, let's have a look at the scoreboard and see what we did and managed to accomplish. Okay, so looking at the score and looking at how much we earned just shy of 25,000 silver lions from getting that, and that's non-premium as well, and no talisman, and earned just shy of 20,000 experience, which is quite impressive for this plane, I must admit. Unfortunately, we did not get the Survivor Award, which makes no sense, because as you're about to see on the player statistics screen, I personally don't think anyone else actually managed to go without losing a single plane. I might be wrong. But anyway, I've been TX141. This has been another War Thunder video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Take care and feel free to subscribe, leave a like and comment in the section below. Until then, take care.